You know, when we talk about Diego Maradona, we're not just talking about some football player. No way. We are talking about a true phenomenon, a legend that was built on one of the most powerful contradictions you'll ever see in sports: the divine genius and the deeply, deeply flawed man, all wrapped up in one little explosive package. And I'm not exaggerating here. For millions of people, especially back home in Argentina and in his adopted city of Naples, Maradona was more than a hero. He was a god. I mean, people didn't just cheer for him, they practically worshipped him. They saw something divine in the way he played, like he was creating actual miracles with a ball at his feet. But, and there's always a but with Maradona, for every single moment of that divine inspiration, there was this dark shadow lurking. His story is a classic tragedy, really. Here's a guy blessed with almost superhuman talent, but he was haunted by some very, very human demons. His life was this constant battle between absolute perfection on the pitch and total chaos off of it. And if you want to understand that duality, it's captured perfectly in this one nickname, D10S. It's just brilliant. It's a mashup of Dios, which is Spanish for God, and the number 10, his jersey number. That's it. That's the perfect metaphor for the man we're about to get into. Part God, part number 10. So where does a figure like this even come from? Well, not from the heavens. He came from the dirt. His story kicks off in Villa Fiorito, a shanty town just outside Buenos Aires. We're talking about a place with no running water. But you better believe there was an endless supply of football. Growing up in that kind of poverty, Diego's talent was his only ticket out. At just 8 years old, he joins this youth team called Los Cebollitas, the Little Onions. And get this, he leads them on a 136-game unbeaten streak. 136 games. By the time he was just about to turn 16, he was already a professional. The world had no idea what was about to hit. And even as a kid, his ambition was just crystal clear. In one of his first TV interviews, he laid out the two dreams that would drive his entire life. This wasn't just some wish. This was a declaration from a kid who had absolutely nothing except a ball and an incredible amount of belief. So, after winning a title with his beloved Boca Juniors, he makes the big jump to Europe. His time at Barcelona, well, it was rough. It was a trial by fire, really, with a broken ankle and a serious illness. But then came the move that changed everything. In 1984, he shows up at Napoli, this struggling club in the poor south of Italy, and they greeted him like he was their savior. And in Naples, oh man, this is where the two Maradonas were on full display. As the saint, he delivered miracles. He led the club to its first ever league titles and a European trophy. He was worshipped, literally. But as this sinner, he fell deep into a serious cocaine addiction and got tangled up with the local mafia. The pressure of being a god was starting to break the man. But before that fall came the absolute, undeniable peak of his powers, the 1986 World Cup in Mexico. This wasn't just a tournament he played in. It was a tournament he owned. This is where the man truly became a myth. Okay, so picture this. The stage is set. It's the quarterfinal against England. One stadium, one game, and 4 minutes of football that would perfectly capture the entire contradictory genius of Diego Maradona. First comes the cheat. It's the 51st minute, and he literally punches the ball into the net with his fist. He later cheekily called it the hand of God. Then, just 4 minutes later, comes the artist. He gets the ball in his own half and just takes off on a 60-yard dribble, weaving past what feels like the entire English team to score what's now called the goal of the century. The sinner and the saint, all in the span of 4 minutes. Unbelievable. Argentina, of course, went on to win the whole thing. And as he lifted that golden trophy, Diego Maradona, the little boy from the slums, had done it. He had fulfilled his destiny. He didn't just play in a World Cup, he won it, almost all by himself. But in every great tragedy, you know the highest point is almost immediately followed by the fall. After the absolute glory of '86, those shadows that had been gathering around Maradona, well, they started to completely take over. And the thing is, the descent was just as steep and just as fast as his ascent. The very same things that shot him to the top, that fire, that passion, that rebellious spirit, were the exact same things that would lead to his dramatic and very public downfall. 15. That's the number. That's how many months he was banned from football in 1991. The reason? He tested positive for cocaine while playing for Napoli. It wasn't just a suspension. Really, it was the beginning of the end.
After that, the dominoes just fell, one after another and fast. He had to flee Italy in disgrace, then he gets arrested for drug possession back home in Argentina. He's even kicked out of the 1994 World Cup for another failed drug test. His retirement in 1997, it wasn't some glorious send-off. It was just inevitable. The magic had been swallowed by the chaos. So, after all of it, the goals, the glory, the drugs, the disgrace, what's left, right? What is the eternal legacy of Diego Maradona?
Well, it all comes back to this one fundamental conflict. On one side, you have the pure genius, the guy who was impossible to tackle, who had this magical left foot. And on the other, you have the tragic hero, the kid from the slums who was made into a god but was never given the tools to handle it and was ultimately consumed by his own fame. And that right there leaves us with the ultimate question. Do we remember him as a flawed god who just couldn't handle his own immense power? Or was he the most human of all our heroes? A man whose incredible gifts and terrible flaws were put on display for the entire world to see. You know, maybe the truth is, he was both.